Episode 245 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. Just say you'll respect the results. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret procedure.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, telling your friends, subscribing to the podcast. We continue to grow, which is great. Lots going on, America. I'm dumbfounded, frankly. It shouldn't be hard to say that you will respect the results of an election, that you will honor the will of the people. We live, after all, in a democratic republic. That doesn't mean that if you see irregularities, you can't challenge them in court. That's perfectly fine in a democratic republic. That's why you have a judicial system. But ultimately, after all is said and all is done, and the courts rule, saying that you will respect the results of an election should not be a difficult thing. I'm going to tell you right now that I will absolutely respect the results of the 2024 election, whether I'm happy with them or not. Watching Senator Tim Scott, who, heretofore, while far to the right of me, seemed like a upbeat, positive, pro-American type guy. Watching him twist himself into a pretzel and not say, yes, I will respect the results of the election this year. Because had he said that, he wouldn't be able to be Trump's running mate this year. America, this isn't hard. What happened in 2020 was atrocious. Donald Trump brought 60 lawsuits across this country, was unsuccessful in all but one, and in the one that he was successful, it was, no, you could stand within 3 feet of the worker instead of 5 feet. Okay? That was the one win he got. No substantive issue that he challenged was successful, including cases that went to the Supreme Court where he appointed 3 of the 9 justices. None of them. Many Republican judges, many Republican legislatures threw out Trump's bogus claims of mass fraud on the scale that would overturn the results of the election. And then he encouraged his supporters to storm the Capitol on January 6th, and they did just that. Knowing what a tinderbox things can become after the election, it should be very easy for everybody to join hands, sing Kumbaya, and say, we're going to fight like hell for our position. We are going to fight to see who wins. But when all is said and all is done, We will respect the will of the people, and we will congratulate our opponent if they win. We hope he doesn't, but if he does, we'll tip our caps and say congratulations, like every single presidential candidate has done, with the exception of Donald Trump. And I know you might be hearing people say in conservative media that Hillary Clinton never did that. That is not true. Hillary Clinton conceded defeat the day after the 2016 election. The day after. Shortly after she conceded defeat, Democratic President Barack Obama invited Donald Trump to the White House and pledged a cooperative transition, which he did provide him. Donald Trump did not participate in the transition. The transition basically had about a week and a half. There was no orderly transition between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. If Joe Biden loses this election, there will be an orderly transition to Donald Trump. If Joe Biden wins this election, Donald Trump will call for chaos around this country. You think that the student protests that the media has been obsessed with for the last couple of weeks, where, 1/100% of college kids are protesting, do you think that they will even be comparing them to what would happen after 2020 if Donald Trump gets his way? Is nothing. Tim Scott should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed. Somebody should follow him around with a bell saying, shame, shame, like they did in Game of Thrones. The answer to that question was yes. And then he tried to say, this is why people think NBC is an arm of the Democratic Party. To say you're going to respect the results of the election is not about the Democratic Party. It's about the small d democracy, which we have all sworn an oath to defend and protect. Senator, listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn, at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. X used to be Twitter, in case you didn't know. Watch me on News Nation. I'm on all the time. If you have television, you have News Nation. I don't have regular times I'm on News Nation. I just show up when they need me. And I usually, not always, will tweet out a picture of my shirt and tie right before I go on the air, so you know what's going on. So check me out there. News Nation, it's news for all Americans. I love how these candidates on the right just can't get low enough. There are some people who still believe that Kristi Noem has a chance to be Trump's running mate, even though she has admitted to killing a dog. Because it is well known that Trump does not like dogs. Kristi Noem doubled down on her killing of her puppy, Cricket, that she could not train. She doubled down and said not only was she right to kill Cricket, but Commander Biden should be put down for biting Secret Service members. Now, let me explain something to you about German Shepherds. They are working dogs. They are dogs who have a job. And generally speaking, that job is to protect their owner and the owner's family, people that they have come to know and love. And it is very, very difficult to introduce new people to German Shepherds. And if that person gets too close to their owner, chances are they're going to do their job and bite them. It's not the dog's fault. Okay, it is not the dog's fault. If anything, it's the president's fault, but I don't want to blame him either because, he gets blamed for things that are not his fault. But Cricket's problem was not Cricket. It was Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem couldn't control a cute dog, couldn't train a cute dog. How is she going to run a country? Just think about that. She's done a pretty bad job running a small state, and you want to promote her? There are people who think that Donald Trump loves this. that she's getting all this attention. Donald Trump does not believe that there's no such thing as bad press. And he's watching this very closely, and she's not apologizing, which is another Donald Trump trait. She's doubling down. But I think that this whole I shot a dog to make me look tough thing is a lot of BS, and it's not playing anywhere. And if Donald Trump feels that this is the running mate for him, well, go ahead, Donald, make my day. Because I've got a lot of pictures of my dog, and every time I put them up online with I put them on Twitter or I put them on Instagram with a caption, "Dogs rule, Kristi Noem is a monster," I get a lot of likes, get a lot of views, get a lot of new followers. And if I have a whole year of that, it'll be a lot of fun because I take a lot of pictures of my dogs. Anybody who follows me on Instagram knows I love my dogs. I know I've said this before, and I'm sorry if you've heard this from me before. I do not trust people who do not have pets. I just don't. Maybe you live in an apartment, you can't have a dog, you have a cat, you have a goldfish or something. Donald Trump does not have pets. He does not have pets. I mean, he barely cares for his children, so how is he going to care for a pet? I don't know, but I can't trust him. And Kristi Noem, she had pets, but she gunned them down in cold blood. So you can't trust her either. I mean, there were a lot of Republican governors around this country trolling Kristi Noem after this, showing pictures of them with their pets, with their dogs. So look, here's the thing, Republicans. If you can't say you're going to accept the results of the election, and if you don't know that it's probably morally wrong, almost always morally wrong, to gun down a dog, for attacking a chicken. You're saying the dog won't hunt. Well, it seemed like he was hunting. Seems like he was hunting the chicken, but you couldn't train them to hunt the other way. She's hunting. Give me a break. Is she hunting in between, treatments for her new teeth? Give me a break. Let me also give you this. Kristi Noem does nothing for Donald Trump. Neither does Tim Scott, by the way. Neither one of them are going to be VP. Oh, Trump thinks that if he has Tim Scott on the ballot, he's going to bring in black voters. No, he's not going to. Tim Scott's not going to attract black voters. Kristi Noem brings in nothing. Trump's going to win North Dakota by 60 points. Excuse me, South Dakota. I get the Dakotas confused because there should be only one Dakota. But I digress. She brings nothing to the table. Nobody around this country liked her to begin with. Now she killed a dog, so they like her even less. And he's going to win South Dakota with or without her. She could endorse his opponent and campaign for them openly, and Trump's still going to win South Dakota. So why on earth would he do it? Trump's going to win South Carolina with or without Tim Scott. And Tim Scott is not going to get him Georgia if that's what he thinks is going to happen. Not going to happen either. He's going to pick a Republican from a swing state. I don't know who that is, but that's his play. A popular, non-controversial Republican from a swing state. I don't know who that is. I really don't. I have no real understanding of who that might be. But I bet you it's somebody who's going to say, yeah, the 2020 election results were fair. And he shouldn't have challenged them. It'll be something like that to try to appeal to those 10 or 15% of Americans that are going to make up the difference in the election. I know that these guys are doubling down on crazy because they think it's what's going to matter. But at the end of the day, Trump does what's best for Trump. Even if it's not what's best for MAGA, keep that in mind. He'll do what he thinks will make him president again and keep him out of jail because he thinks he's going to jail. I don't. Hang in there. I'll be right back. Sometimes I have to ask myself, or ask America, how anybody follows a weirdo like Donald Trump. He's just bizarre. Bizarre and strange. Who talks about themselves the way he does? I look, there are people who talk about themselves the way he does, but we avoid them. We avoid them like the plague. We don't try to make them the ruler of the free world. Last week he said that he's not sleeping in court. He's resting his beautiful blue eyes. If I talked about my eyes like that, I think my family would do a wellness check on me to see if I was okay. Sometimes he says things that, we really do need to check to see if everybody's okay. Week 2 of his trial has concluded, and he is basically stuck in court, not campaigning, not doing what you really need to do to get elected president. Time is the one resource on a campaign that you cannot replenish. Once it's gone, it's gone. Biden's out making speeches about policy matters. He's going on the road talking about jobs. Trump comes out, talks about Stormy Daniels, the porn star who he paid not to talk after he slept with her days after his son Barron was born. Okay? That's why he's there. That's what's going on there. Some people are saying, and I don't know if this is true, that maybe Stormy Daniels was going to the press because she was promised money to sleep with Donald Trump, which never came. Kind of like guys who worked on his hotels in Atlantic City. They came in, they did a job, and they weren't paid for it. And perhaps Stormy Daniels did a job she wasn't paid for. Now, I'm not saying that's true. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But either way, he did pay for her silence so that it wouldn't impact his campaign. And you want to argue about whether or not he should be put on trial for such a sin. We could have that argument. But he is on trial for it. And he did do it. Nobody is suggesting that he didn't do it. I don't even really think he's suggesting that. I mean, if he was innocent of even doing that, wouldn't his wife show up at court to defend him? Wouldn't his daughter be there? One of his 2 daughters? I know Eric showed up the other day. Oh, yay. But that's not happening. Yet what is happening is Donald Trump is closing his, I wouldn't say beautiful blue eyes. I don't even know what color his eyes are because they seem beady to me. Every day in court, dozing off, slurring his speech when he's out on the campaign trail that one day a week he gets out. Literally slurring his speech. We are watching the deterioration of Donald Trump's mental capacity before our very eyes. Right? Remember, he's pushing 80, and he's not getting any younger, and he's making very strange mistakes out on the road, not knowing what cities he's in. He's not knowing who he's running against, confusing Kamala Harris with Nancy Pelosi. I don't know, America. I think that the argument that Trump wants to make that Joe Biden is not up for the task is being challenged. Biden has been out there, between the correspondence dinner and the Stern interview and the speeches he's been making. He'll be making a speech pretty soon at the Holocaust Museum on anti-Semitism in America. I think Joe Biden has been very active and doing a lot on his campaign. And I think you'll start to see results in the polling data, particularly when polling data becomes likely voters and not registered voters, because Biden is winning with likely voters all over this country. I'm just saying it's bizarre to me, absolutely bizarre, the behavior that this man has. And I still, when I hear it and I see it, and I know that there are a lot of people who listen to me who vote for him and support him, I just don't get it. He's a weirdo. If he was a guy you worked with, if his desk was next to you, you'd move your chair away from him. He's weird. He's all about himself, and he really has this opinion of himself. The guy looks in the mirror. He does not see himself. He sees Timothée Chalamet. Listen to this. I'll be right back. I think I said of course too much. I think of course is becoming my new, quite frankly, which I have to, these little ticks I have in my delivery that I need to deal with because they seem to be annoying. I mean, they're annoying me. I can't imagine what they're doing to you, but at least I'm not talking about my beautiful, I have green eyes, unlike the former president. I'm talking about his beautiful blue eyes. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. I mean, he looks in the mirror and he sees somebody else. I don't know who he sees. Maybe he sees himself from 30 years ago. I guess that's a good thing. It's body positive if that's what you want. I guess. But, maybe reality. I live on Earth 1. I live on planet Earth. I live on a planet where, I believe in reality. And when I look in the mirror, I go, wow, what happened to that guy? He used to be a decent looking guy back in the day, and now he's not. Donald Trump probably should have a similar reaction, but he looks in the mirror and he sees an Adonis. Like I said, I think he sees Timothée Chalamet. Do you think his staff just replaced the mirrors? Maybe got some of those mirrors that slim you down, or something like they have in clothing stores, mirrors that make you look a little bit better. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, look, we're going into the weekend. I'm dragging from last night's Knicks game, which was, a great game, which they won with like a couple seconds left. It was a battle. I think the announcers called it a war of attrition. I agree. The Knicks were up 22 points and then blew that lead, came back and won by, I believe, won by 3 points. It was a phenomenal basketball game, but why they started it so late, I don't know. I didn't go to bed till midnight, and had to get up to do morning television. So it's going to be a fun Friday for me, but I think we have a great weekend coming up, right? More basketball, more golf, baseball's in full swing now. I'm looking forward to going to the movies. I think I'm going to go see The Fall Guy. I think I'm going to watch Jerry Seinfeld's Pop-Tart movie on Netflix, which looks hilarious to me. I hope that, I know I say this every week. I hope that we all take some time to disconnect from the world of politics, which I think we're all taking too much as life and death, at least at this point, right? Let's see where we go here. I don't believe it's a life or death situation. I just don't. I think it's important. I think that Donald Trump's election would be bad for America and bad for the world, but, I don't know that it's going to end the world or end us. I might not want to go that far. I'll give it a wait and see. But I also don't think he's going to win. I don't think he can, and I don't think anybody's voting for a guy who tweets about his beautiful blue eyes. I don't. But of course they do, so I don't know. Maybe I got to rethink that. But it's the weekend. Beautiful May weekend. Take some time, get outside, see your family, see your friends. Disconnect from this crazy world of politics. I do this for a living. I am going to disconnect. Now, I will watch the Sunday shows on Sunday because it's just my, it's my routine. But beyond that, sports, movies, comedy all weekend. Basically, when I close this microphone, I'm done with politics for the week. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to recharge. I'm going to think about what's really important to me and my family, and not, engage in this, life or death struggle that we all feel we're in for the next couple of days. And I hope you can do that too. I hope that we can all just, agree that the weekends are for something else. Barring some catastrophe that happens. I'm not going to think about the college protests. I'm not going to, engage on social media with some troll who's trying to rile me up. Not going to do that. Going to enjoy the weekend. Going to go for a long walk with my dog. I don't know if your dogs like to drive in the car. My dog loves a ride in the car. We go to Starbucks. We get a pup cup. Usually 4 or 5 times a week. My caffeine intake is definitely up with this dog because this dog loves to go get a pup cup. And I love my dog, unlike Christine from North Dakota. I love my dog. Or she's South Dakota. I don't know. She's South Dakota, right? Yeah. I know I'm talking about this too much. I know it. I guess I've just become a dog person, right? I mean, I grew up with a dog. Then I didn't have dogs for a while, years. My daughters wanted a dog. I used to say, clean your room, you'll get a dog. And they wouldn't clean their rooms. And then they finally got their act together and kept their rooms clean for the minimal 6 months I told them to do it. And then they got the dog. And now I love the dog more than anybody else in the house loves the dog. I think that's the way it always goes, right? Probably. And I just can't imagine anybody not loving dogs. I always loved dogs, even when I didn't have a dog. I see dogs in the street, I pet them when I'm out running on the beach. You see dogs, and you love them. They're just friendly, happy animals for the most part. And I think about that poor dog getting shot in the head and left in a ditch. It's horrible. It's a horrible scene. One of these days I'll stop talking about it and I'll talk about other things. Look, there are a lot of things going on in this world right now that are horrible. And this is a distraction from that horror. And maybe we should be spending more time talking about the other horrors in the world. I get it. But I think we got to protect this country from horrible people. Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, horrible people who will do worse things than kill dogs. So, maybe focusing on this trait that we can all relate to, maybe that helps us avoid the worst fate that we might get if these people ever ascend to power. And we've all got to focus on finding a way to keep people like Kristi Noem and Donald Trump away from power. And in Donald Trump's case, away from power again, because we know what he did the first time. People are all freaking out about the polls. The polls, to me, show a trend in Joe Biden's direction. The ABC poll over the weekend, if you look at registered voters, he's winning. If you look at likely voters, he's winning even bigger. You throw in RFK Jr., he's still winning. Why is that? Because people are starting to remember what the Trump presidency was about. And when they ask the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? The answer is no. You were locked in your house, afraid of a disease that he did not prepare for, and he reacted wrongly to. His failure, his incompetence, is why we were in the position we were in. And you want to talk about protests on campus? Cities were burning under Donald Trump. He keeps thinking that, you keep seeing poll numbers where black men are supporting Donald Trump in greater numbers. I do not believe that. I don't believe it. I don't think that when they're reminded of who Donald Trump was, and they will be, because remember, we all look back on things fondly. You look back on experiences, even experiences that were bad, as fond experiences. You don't remember how horrible it was until somebody reminds you. Well, America, the next year is going to be a reminder of how horrible it was when this man was president. And you're not going to want to go back to it. Believe me. Listen, you listen to me, you're probably not going back to it anyway. But the 10% that are going to make up the difference in this election, they're not going to want it either. All right, I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth. Question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again next week to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.